You're watching This Week in Louisiana Politics with Fred Childers.
Good morning, I'm Fred Childers. Hope you're enjoying your weekend. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. All right, let's talk money. The state budget is flying through the legislature, but some are raising concerns about high spending and a looming fiscal cliff. Political reporter Shannon Hecht breaks down how it has changed since the governor's original proposal.
This isn't the last stop for the budget, but it's leaving the House earlier than normal. This raises some red flags for some of the members. Representative Blake Miguez asked about the anticipated $650 million fiscal cliff expected to hit in 2025. Leadership and the governor assure that steps are being taken now to prevent it.
Next budget, when it comes up, we're going to address that, reduce recurring expenses, and
You're watching This Week in Louisiana Politics with Fred Childers.
Good morning, I'm Fred Childers. Hope you're enjoying your weekend. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. All right, let's talk money. The state budget is flying through the legislature, but some are raising concerns about how high spending and a looming fiscal cliff. Political reporter Shannon Hecht breaks down how it has changed since the governor's original proposal.
This isn't the last stop for the budget, but it's leaving the House earlier than normal. This raises some red flags for some of the members. Representative Blake Miguez asked about the anticipated $650 million fiscal cliff expected to hit in 2025. Leadership and the governor assure that steps are being taken now to prevent it.
next budget, when it comes up, we're going to address that, reduce recurring expenses, and if we keep chipping away, I think we can make ourselves, hopefully, if we continue on this path, be prepared for, and it won't be as impactful when that budget shortfall does happen.
Governor John Bel Edwards' proposed budget has been picked apart already, including his proposal to save $500 million for a new Mississippi River bridge. They've already moved $100 million to a Roads and Bridges Fund, and $400 million has yet to be decided on. The governor hopes to put it back together on the Senate side.
But it's got to be fixed in a way that actually allows the money to be safeguarded and preserved and available only for the bridge. Otherwise, it really doesn't help you to be able to use the money to convince the federal government that we are serious.
Despite the concerns, the budget is now tossed to the Senate, where even more changes are expected. For your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
Once the Senate finishes with the budget, it will be sent to the conference committee to work out more details. It is just about halfway through the regular legislative session, and of course we'll keep an eye on it. The Louisiana Commissioner of Administration, Jay Darden, says money needs to be designated for the Mississippi River Bridge now. He believes that will show the state's commitment to the project and save money down the road. Darden says $500 million designated directly to this project could get the ball rolling on environmental studies.
It's very important from my vantage point that $500 million be placed in a specific fund for the Baton Rouge Bridge to evidence the commitment and take away any uncertainty as to whether the bridge would be competing with other projects for those dollars.
Darden says a toll placed on the bridge will be necessary to cover some of the cost of construction, but hopes grants will keep that cost on the driver to a minimum. Louisiana residents will have the chance to review the 10 proposed locations. The public's feedback will be used to narrow that list to 3 by the end of May. A renewed push to repeal the death penalty in Louisiana struck politicians to their core, but the votes just weren't there. Hours of testimony shows the split of how voters feel on the issue. Shannon Heck breaks down what the bill is aimed to do.
There was a lengthy debate on this bill, including some testimony from someone who was exonerated from the Louisiana death row. But despite the hours of discussion, the Senate voted not to repeal the death penalty. Testimony spanned hours from people sharing their personal connections to the death penalty and how their faith tells them not to take a life. Others talked about how people should pay the ultimate price for heinous crimes. The senators took it all in what they called the most fruitful conversation on the topic in years.
We feel the possible impact, positively or negatively, on what we're doing.
Sharif Kusan spent 3 years on death row after being accused of murder at 16. He says there are many more out there on death row who could be innocent due to flaws in the judicial system.
You won't feel the impact, whether positive or negative, if it's not happening to your family.
Senator Katrina Jackson told the committee her religion tells her the death penalty is not right. Some say people should get justice for their loved ones who were victims of the crime.
True human value is the person who's sitting on death row and is innocent. The true human value in what we've done is the people that have been executed in this state.
There's not been an execution in the state since 2010. Lawmakers say their minds could be changed in the future, but for now, they can't vote for it. There's another bill on the House side that also looks to repeal the death penalty, but would have to go through the exact same committee to be passed on to the governor. So it's not clear how this bill will play out. At the Capitol for your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
The Louisiana legislature is asking for identification before anyone can view adult online videos, all in the name of protecting kids. The bill by Representative Lori Schlegel would require a website with more than a quarter of it pornography to have verification systems to prove people are over 18 before seeing that content. Schlegel, a counselor and sex addiction therapist, says children who are exposed to porn at a young age are seeing damaging effects.
Research shows that children under the age of 10 now account for 22% of underage online porn consumption, while 10 to 14-year-olds make up 36% of minor consumers. The average age of first exposure to pornography is 11 years old, and some estimate it's now younger.
The bill would allow Louisianans to sue the companies for having verification. It now moves to the full House. Should sheriffs in Louisiana have term limits? Well, legislators say no. The House Judiciary Committee struck down a bill that would have limited sheriffs to 3 4-year terms. Dozens of sheriffs from across the state were at the Capitol to protest that bill. The bill's sponsor says sheriffs have so much power and should have term limits like other public offices.
Part of the reason for bringing it is that sheriffs in the state have incredible power. I mean, they may have more power as a group than even the governor. And, this would not take anyone's job. What we're just trying to do is put some sort of limitation on how long one person can be in power.
The Louisiana Sheriff's Association said their opposition is not about politics, but public service. The Capital Region is getting one step closer to a rail system from Baton Rouge to New Orleans. Governor John Bel Edwards takes a look at how it can all be done. Rachel Riley reports.
All aboard! Governor John Bel Edwards and DOTD took their first trips on the tracks today, testing them out in hopes of a passenger train connecting the two largest cities in Louisiana.
Secretary Wilson and I are excited about this opportunity. We're excited about getting on this train, doing this inspection, and then making this passenger rail service happen.
Long-standing plans for a passenger train from the Red Stick to the Big Easy are now chugging along.
You all know that for years, this passenger rail link has been something that people across Louisiana have been talking about. The desire has always been there. We just didn't have the means.
Now the state has the means because of federal dollars pouring out from Washington, D.C. The project began to move forward in December after a merger planned to be settled with two major rail lines by the end of the year.
The impending merger between Kansas City Southern Railroad and Canadian Pacific Railroad provides new opportunities and renewed support.
DOTD Secretary Sean Wilson says their plans are right on track to help Baton Rouge and New Orleans become connected in more than one way.
This will be an opportunity for us to really finally get cars off the road, reducing congestion.
And it will allow Baton Rouge and New Orleans to compete together against other regions of the country.
Local leaders say with the success of this railway, more tracks in northern Louisiana and growth opportunities could follow. State leaders say there's still a long way to go, and there's no timeline yet, but they're hoping to get the trains on the track as soon as possible. Rachel Riley, NBC Local 33 News.
Yeah, they've been talking about that for a while now. A spike in overdose deaths in New Orleans has health officials on high alert, and a spike in violent crime in Baton Rouge has the mayor asking for peace. We'll talk about it next.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. Shocking statistics out of the Big Easy indicate a steady rise in accidental overdose deaths. In the midst of the festival season, leaders are warning about fentanyl. Anna McAllister has the details.
We're in the heart of festival season in New Orleans, which means thousands of people will be out and about partying the night away. But city officials are warning of a silent killer that's on the streets.
What we saw during the NCAA, or with the resurgence of visitors in our city, is just an uptick in deaths relative to overdoses, but particularly fentanyl being laced in different drugs.
The New Orleans Coroner's Office releasing disturbing new information about fentanyl overdoses over the last year. According to the report, 492 people died from an accidental overdose in 2021. Of the 462 cases with toxicology results, 94% tested positive for fentanyl.
It takes a very, very small amount to render someone incapacitated.
Many times, people who overdose on fentanyl don't even know they're using it. That's what happened to 31-year-old Houma native Sarah Pellegrin.
She got straight fentanyl. And I know that was not her intention. I know that she didn't want to die that day.
Renee Burtoneau remembers her daughter Sarah as a funny, friendly woman who adored her 3 children. Lily Harvey also lost her daughter, 28-year-old Millie, to a fatal fentanyl overdose.
I was in shock because that is just not something that she fooled with. She received it against her knowledge. She did not know that's what it was.
Harvey describes her daughter as a fun, free-spirited young woman. And ever since Millie's death, Harvey has been on a mission to spread awareness.
I needed to turn my pain into purpose.
Harvey has dedicated the last 5 years to getting the Louisiana government to pass a law with stricter punishments for dealers who sell fatally laced drugs. This month, that bill passed the state Senate. Now, Millie's law will go to the Louisiana House of Representatives. If passed, convicted dealers who sell fatally laced drugs will serve a minimum of 10 years behind bars. So, when you're out on the town enjoying the sights and sounds of New Orleans this festival season, beware of the silent killer fentanyl. It only takes one time, and your first time could be your last.
What you may use is very likely to have a lethal dose of fentanyl in it.
Anna McAllister, WGNO News.
Baton Rouge Mayor Sharon Weston Broome is promoting a Peace Week. It's an initiative in honor of the 3-year-old boy who was killed by a stray bullet while asleep last week. Groups of peace walkers canvassed Baton Rouge neighborhoods working to spread awareness about the resources available to residents, and they surveyed the community, asking people how they feel about the violence.
There is definitely a need for a community walk to understand what our community feels, what they go through every single day when they walk outside of their homes and when they have to drive outside of their communities.
There is a better outcome beyond the grave or prison.
City leaders say the community must be involved in making a change because they say it takes everyone to be on board. The White House won't rule out appealing a federal judge's decision to end mask mandates for travel. This comes after a Florida federal judge ruled the CDC went beyond its lawful authority by requiring masks. The decision moved airlines, rail systems, and other public transit companies nationwide to cancel their mask requirement. Airports and bus systems across the state made masking optional this week.
This is obviously a disappointing decision. The CDC continues recommending wearing a mask in public transit to be able to assess the latest science in keeping with its responsibility to protect the American people.
The Biden administration is awaiting a decision from the Justice Department about how to proceed. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says that review could take a couple of days. Well, it's been 12 years since the BP disaster in the Gulf of Mexico, 12 years since 11 men lost their lives, and 12 years of planning to prevent it from happening again. Amy Russo has the story.
Myrtle Grove Marina is a familiar place for P.J. Hahn.
It's always been near and dear to my heart.
But 12 years ago to the day, it was unrecognizable.
It had so many pallets and stacked up areas of mainly boom. Today it doesn't even look close.
About 168 million gallons of oil spewed into the Gulf of Mexico after the explosion aboard the Deepwater Horizon.
We had 4 to 5 inches thick in some areas of oil.
We were bringing in Pelicans, a dozen or two at a time, covered in oil.
92% of the oil spilled came into Louisiana. Most of it was cleaned up. Louisiana received billions of dollars after a settlement with BP. Changes are now in place to make sure a disaster like this never happens again.
Blowout preventers and all the equipment on standby. So the oil industry is absolutely better prepared than ever to deal with that type of situation. Money put forth to recover and restore the coast is having a good impact on our fisheries and on the coastline.
Happy with the progress, Hahn says there's still a ways to go.
Here we are 12 years later and we still don't have the bird islands that were directly impacted.
Amy Russo, WGNO News.
Last year, the Louisiana State Treasurer said he still had more than $700,000 that remained unclaimed by people and businesses affected by that oil spill. Coming up, the cost of renting your home is on the rise. We'll take a closer look at what's causing that. Stay with us.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. As the price of rent continues to soar, many people are experiencing, well, sticker shock. Vanya Joseph explains what's causing increased costs and when rates could come back down.
This rate is probably the highest I've seen since I started here in 2015.
The sticker shock of rent increases taking place all over the country, even here in the capital city, and it's anyone's guess when these numbers will drop back down.
So they're paying about 15% more now, whether it's a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom apartment.
Senior Vice President of Business Intelligence for the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, Andrew Fitzgerald, says even though Baton Rouge residents are making more money, those extra dollars are being swallowed by the increased cost of living, and you can think more than inflation for that.
Prices have gone up, but we're still below the national average. There's only about 600 to 650 homes for sale at East Baton Rouge right now, which has 440 or 450,000 people. So that's way too few homes on the market. So that may actually drive more people to have to stay in apartments that would try to transition.
People like Skylar Dewey, who has finally decided it may be time to become a homeowner after 15 years of renting.
I mean, I came here because it was way cheaper than New Orleans. That is why I came to Baton Rouge. I don't know, if I can't land a house, then I might have to go somewhere cheaper.
Chasing a career and a comfortable living, Dewey is no stranger to moving to get more bang for her buck.
Every year when you re-sign, you're going to end up paying a little bit more. What that number is supposedly is based on market value or however they do that. In order to avoid that, I've moved to a different place every year, which is absolutely exhausting.
Fitzgerald says historically, the higher median income and lower cost of housing in Baton Rouge has been an incentive for living here. For Dewey, that gap is quickly closing.
Essentially, I'm getting $1,500 a month to pay for my rent from the Veterans Office, but my rent just went up to $1,500, so I have no extra for bills. They just raised my rent $300 for a 2-bedroom apartment.
While Dewey is keeping her head above water, more Americans are spending over half their income on housing.
The average salary around here is $40,000 for a decent job. At $40,000, you can't even qualify for a 2-bedroom apartment because you need 3 times the rent, right? What's 3 times $1,500? That's $4,500. That's not a $40,000 a year job.
Let's take it one step further. According to a 2021 study by the National Low Income Housing Coalition, at Louisiana's minimum wage of $7.25, you would have to work 98 hours a week to afford a 2-bedroom. Unfortunately, minimum wage does not rise automatically with inflation.
And that's why it's important for communities to have a range of housing, because we have such a range of income levels.
Despite ranking in the bottom half of the nation's most expensive rental states, based on that same report, Louisianians still have to make over $17 an hour to keep up with the recommended 30% income limit for living expenses. Like Dewey,
somebody needs to step in and regulate this.
We're all wondering if there is relief in sight.
It depends a lot on federal policy. It also depends on the easiest way to bring down the cost of housing is to build more housing, increase the supply.
I feel like Louisiana's competing with some pretty high places right now.
Vanya Joseph, NBC Local 33 News.
Up next, we'll have a look at the week ahead on your local election headquarters. Stay with us.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. Looking ahead to the coming week, the Louisiana Senate will be taking up the state's budget to see if they want to make any more changes to it. On Saturday, the 30th, don't forget to vote in the municipal general election. So you can check the Secretary of State's website to see if your parish has a vote going on. It's a good website. and it's very interactive. Don't miss Ag Commissioner Mike Strain at the Baton Rouge Press Club. He'll be there tomorrow. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics. I'm Fred Childers. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you next Sunday right here on your local election headquarters.